Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead, Ray.
Oh, I was just.
Okay, testing 1, 2. Right. That's it. Okay, hi there, everybody, and welcome to today's events. My name's Aaron. I'm working here at Go210. And if you haven't been here before, I can tell you a little bit about the place. It's run by Internet Stiftelsen, Swedish foundation, and this is part of Go210 is part of their projects to like support entrepreneurship, innovation, digitalization throughout Sweden. So for here, we've opened nearly 1 year now, and we are a free co-working space and event space. So if you'd like to come here to use the co-working space, please do. We have 3D printers here. We have a meeting room. We have a cafe bar. Lots of stuff for you. Or if you want to arrange events like this, please do. So that's about it. If you have any questions about it, if you want to find out more about it, if you want to become a member, you can talk to me. I can help you out with that. And we're open every day, Monday to Friday, 8 until 4:30. So yeah, I'd love to have you here, and welcome to today's event. I'm going to pass you over to Thomas, who's going to introduce today's event. Over to you, Thomas.
Hello, guys. It's so good to see so many happy people. Disturbance. Are we okay to go? All right, we started with a bang. So welcome to the show. Yeah, it's so good to see so many of you here, happy faces interested in AI and robotics. So the way we'll run it, we'll start with introductions, little presentations. At the end, you will have a hands-on session with the robotics. So please be patient with that. So let's just do with a quick round of introductions. And if we could, we'll start in person. So if could Harazu please step in and introduce herself quickly. She's one of my students from Linköping University. And with her, we conducted, I think, one of the first UI UX thesis, in this industry in general. So yeah, please welcome her.
Yeah, my name is Arazu, and I'm just recently graduated from Master of Design in Linköping University, and I had the chance to work my master thesis with Thomas and collaborating with Toyota. Yeah, I'm happy to be here today and presenting my findings with all of you. Okay.
Absolutely, please. So later we'll call you to do the presentation. So now if we could present the guys online, my peers from Magic ML as of Ray. So hello guys.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Oh. Okay, so I can start with my introduction. I'm Ray Ochoa. I'm a IT person. I fix computers during my day job for a large hospital corporation. Just been into technology and working with all this, whatever's on the cutting edge, as kind of a hobby, and more recently, like as part of my university projects for automotive design. I'm really excited to talk AI with everybody. So looking forward to seeing what everybody has to say.
Yay! Welcome.
Mike, you want to go ahead?
I think you're muted.
Muted. Yeah.
You're
Michael.
right. I am.
There you
go. There we go. Hey, everybody. Just
yeah. Okay.
great to be here. It's kind of weird. I can't see who I'm talking to, so I'll just talk to the guys on here. But it's a pleasure to meet everybody. I'm Michael Sharp, CEO and founder over at Magic ML. We're a no-code platform for empowering creators to utilize AI. Happy to be here. Just
Absolutely.
I'm Jesse Alton. It's nice to meet you. I'm one of the co-founders at Magic, and my background's largely in product management and business development. So generally bring those skills to the table, and I'm always happy to talk about anything product design, product management. Cheers.
Yeah, and here we had a Mr. Metaverse. Yay! Big round of applause, as we call him. All right, this is great, guys. I think we're gonna have a good time here. So, yeah. So I'm Thomas. I won't talk too much about myself because I tend to talk way too much if I start to. I have a long history in design, even longer in coding, which I abandoned, but now I'm trying to combine both, you know, coding, AI, design, and we'll run you through the whole thing. I must thank GoTo10, amazing startup and freelancer platform, which you can come and yeah, enjoy your time here as well as work productively. As well, I want to thank my company, Toyota Group, which enabled me for the last 10 years to produce amazing designs and publish them. And same time, I'll be introducing you to my new startup, Neural DeepNet, but we'll focus on that a bit later. And just before we start this discussion, I want to give opportunity for like 5-10 minutes for Arezou to present her thesis summary. So yeah, once more, please welcome Arezou to the stage. And after that, we'll kick off with some more hardcore stuff, yeah. So please. So just to mention how special is this thesis, because we had no clue at Toyota where we're going, and I think Arezou also, as the first time I introduced her with the AI tools, she was astonished, as I was astonished how quickly she picked up those tools and developed prototypes. So yeah, I think she'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, okay. As Thomas said, I was wondering how I can use AI in design totally, but here to mention agenda. I will share the key highlights of my research and some of the new AI tools after my thesis ended. Now working in the UX design. So when AI was the topic everywhere, I was curious to see how I can use these tools in the UX design process, and the question went to my mind that how AI design tools can influence the user experience design process. So to understand the capabilities and limitations of AI, I began studying literatures and about AI and exploring AI tools that are helpful for UX design, like image generators or text generators and supporting tools in the UX design. So I find out some tools like ChatGPT or Midjourney and some plugins in Figma. So I tried all of them and examined them. But to acquire a better understanding of the potential target group, I conducted some interviews, some workshops with design students, and a web-based survey with Toyota design team. Then I realized that where and how AI can be integrated to the most popular UX design process, which is some like Double Diamond or these kind of processes. But I wanted to know in each steps of the design process which tools are useful and how they can be helpful. So I tried first of all individually all of the tools and then examined them with the participants in workshops. So after reviewing all of the information I obtained in my research and the discover step, I brainstormed based on them and integrated AI into my real project to compare with my own way of working design process. So the feasibility, I wanted to evaluate the feasibility of having an AI-powered tools which works in the field, in this field. For example, I asked ChatGPT to provide me the codes that I wanted to have a visualization of them, and then inputted these codes into JS Fiddle. That was the Thomas.
Exactly, and that was the eureka moment. You know, when we understood that we don't need to be coders. It's enough for us to make a very precise prompts. We started to engineer prompts, and then we started to get results together, you know.
Yeah, I just did some slight changes to the code and then have a visual demonstration of my initial ideas then to show everyone that I wanted to present. Then at the end, I designed a prototype of the UX assistant application that provide the support and guidance you may need in the throughout your UX design journey. So you simply answer some questions in this app. It starts. Yeah.
That's all right. Yep.
No. Yeah, it's playing. Okay, I will just
I think you
present.
can just tell.
Yeah, I
you
will
know,
tell you.
how it
That's
goes,
you simply answer some questions and you input your project data. Doesn't matter in which step you
It's
enter
working,
it.
yeah, it's
okay.
working.
Great. And based on the data you input and the data it gets from the internet out there, it will give you some suggestions and some updates based on these things. And every time it will review all the information and it will update your board. So you have a board here that is like a shared space for your team, and you have everything here, so you can see what AI will suggest you. You can accept or just ask them for more information. And then this idea of an AI-powered UX design assistant came from realizing that although different teams may have different methodologies, they use the fundamental design process remains consistent across many projects, as well as designers' willingness to have supportive roles. AI as a supportive roles or facilitator, which would enhance their abilities rather than diminish their role as a creative. So there are some more UX design or design supportive tools now, like Wizard, which is the most common or unknown one, that it gives you the opportunity to have rapid prototyping by turning your hand sketches to the real prototypes or vice versa. And it will also generate editable and multi-screen designs from the single text prompt, and it gives you the predictor like heat maps and based on your design, so you can understand where in your design is the most important information that you should put it. Or the next one is Fabry, which is also a shared space for teams to collaborate, and it's user-friendly database for a team. And it's also gives you a lot of templates like persona or journey map and these things. Also AI-powered Figma plugins that are very helpful, like Coco, which gives you some feedbacks on your design and the like interview questions and these things. Dreamer is like Midjourney or forgot the name, but like image generators, and lots of them out there. So I just figure out that lots of AI tools out there are working in UX and UI design, but yeah, just the most important ones are here. So to answer my research question, I would say that beyond all the great features that AI gives us, speaking about UX process, it can serve as a source of inspiration and creativity by generating design ideas based on patterns and trends. Also can automate repetitive tasks that improves overall efficiency, and it can also analyze large amount of data, like user data and behavior patterns. So it gives you valuable insights. And they can facilitate collaboration among design teams by providing real-time feedbacks and improves overall productivity. So they can provide insights on user interactions, which accelerate the iteration and prototyping, and validate your designs. And thanks for your time.
Yay!
Yes.
Give a big round of applause for Arezou, because she did the best she could, and I think she exceeded our expectations at Toyota. That's for sure, because we were working on parallel on two things: exploring the cutting-edge AI tools and creating our own tools while prompt engineering and prototyping them, so that we just grasp what we were doing. It's like AI prototyping AI. Of course, this is just the baby steps what we're doing, but this is what the whole industry been talking about, how 3D printers, 3D printers. But I think we achieved just those first steps, and I'm so proud of her, and our team. We did that. Right, thanks. Yeah. So, as we move on, and let's not forget our amazing co-host in the States. They're covering pretty much the whole continent there, all the way from East Coast to West Coast. So Jess is sitting in DC, that's right. Then Ray is all the way in Texas, and Mr. Michael is in Vancouver, as I believe.
I am in British Columbia in Canada. I'm in Nelson.
All right.
Small mountain town.
Yeah, I see. Great. How do we? Where?
It's because it's on this. You need to put it on.
All right. A slight hiccup that happens, Every best show needs that. Okay. That's great. Good. Applause to our expert, Aaron fixes the things on the spot in best way possible. So that's why the show keeps on going. Yeah, so just a little bit sum up what's next. We'll have around an hour now to do this panel talk where we'll discuss the things that we're all developing and what we'll see in the future. However, after that hour, we want to involve you guys, the guys on YouTube Live, and as well the actual physical audience here. We'll try to prompt some things, to build some things online and here, So I hope you'll get inspired by the things that were introduced by Arezou and that we'll discuss. At the same time, we'll do a great time here. So, right, guys, so who wants to start with sharing some of their visions and...
Well, hey, Michael, I think you had some interesting stuff that you shared with us yesterday regarding agents and things like that. I think that'd be a great kickoff point.
Right.
Yeah, we could start off by chatting about that. for those who are not familiar, this concept of an AI agent is essentially a software that has the ability to learn, grow, adapt, take actions, or have agency. So we're seeing a lot of these starting, all these like AI personal assistants and stuff like that that help you with your workflows. These are all kind of in this vein of AI agent. And a lot of what we do over at Magic is development tools to make it faster and easier for people to build these kinds of agents. We're pretty much agnostic to what you can build. We're more of a building tool. But we do believe that at some point, probably within 5 years, if not a little bit longer, agents will be replacing your websites, right? This is kind of our future prediction. Just like back in the 90s, there was the big web boom and everybody got websites. We believe that there's the big agent boom and everybody's going to get agents. Your personal agent that helps you navigate your life. When you spin up a business, you'll get your business agent that can, answer queries that people have for you. If you're an artist, you'll probably have various agents that you even create as part of your artistic process. We're going to see a radical transformation of most industries based upon this kind of agentic approach to software.
I'm really glad that we're talking about that first, because that puts like at the forefront like the main utility that makes like understanding this topic just that much more exciting, right? I mean, like this technology that has been developing, I mean, for a long time now, but the big radical changes we've seen, it's really coming in, from like transformation of data. Like you're taking this basically a statistics engine and then being able to like take actual real work that can do things for us and add real value. So the idea that we can make decisions in a way that is meaningful and it's historically like valuable. I mean, that's the stuff of dreams,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that this kicked off with AI and creativity, because that's actually where like most of like before I was a programmer, and I'm a programmer by trade. I did like a 9-week web dev boot camp about a decade ago. Before that, I was an artist. I went to the Ontario College of Art and Design. I did a degree in cultural studies, looking at digital media and communication. So most of my background was kind of in the creative industries, and part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing at Magic is because we really want to empower creative people to be able to build things with AI, not programmers, not people that have PhDs, but people that know how to innovate, right? The innovators. I really believe that some of the biggest transformations we'll see is in people's creative processes, almost more than anything else in a way. It's ironic, as you say, we're going from a statistics engine to a tool of creativity, which is a radical transformation. And I think almost no industry has felt the impact of this as much as some of the creative fields with the emergence of tools like Midjourney. I think it's because artists were always probably like, oh man, computers can't do my job. Right. And well, they still, I still don't believe that they can, but it does require a shift in the way that creative people think about their creative process. The machine isn't creative, but the machine can give us creative superpowers. It kind of democratizes the production of art and other things, which not only speeds us up as creative people, but also empowers more people to explore creativity and create new things.
Yeah, and one thing that's really, I'm sure at the forefront of everybody's mind when we say the word creativity, right? It's such an abstract word that like we like, how do you even define that? Like, how do you know if it's not just like random noise without any meaning and all that stuff? And when it comes to creativity, like one of the things that we have access to is to be able to like ask the question and be able to like interact with the information as an answer, but as a conversation. And when ChatGPT really took off, I mean, and I think it came out a little bit after some of the image generator stuff. When the conversational AI came out, that's when the entire world kind of paused for a second and took notice. Even people that are not anywhere near this field started to take notice. And I think there's something there, right? There's something about programming languages and the way that we interact with systems in that way. But conversation is really the programming language of humanity, right? So that's how we communicate stories, that's how we communicate knowledge, and just the idea that we have access to interact with a system like that. And let's just say like creativity with an asterisk, right? Because because it is a statistics engine, if you put in a very simple request, you'll get the amalgamation, the average of every possible variation of that concept. So you'll get a little bit muted. But if we see that as just a starting point to build off of, we can really get somewhere. And to speak about some of the stuff Magic is doing, once we start thinking about, okay, well, if we have this individual task that we want to accomplish, well, let's break it down into its components and create a workflow, right? That may be something that everybody might relate to. It's you can do one job really well, but if you can manage a set of jobs, a set of tasks in a certain path, then you can become much more powerful in whatever you're doing. So we have some examples of that in the creative space. I mean, there's so many process-oriented tasks, even though there is a lot of creativity involved, right? But it's how you route that in the creative ways that you flow that information that really makes a difference.
Absolutely. You know what I loved Ray mentioned that conversation is the coding language that we have in our society, and we already build amazing things just using our language. No matter if it's translated into books, text, science. But we are already communicating for millions of years in this way, and we do it so naturally, so seamlessly. And the next step is just to connect it to the computer, that it understands us and not the other way around. Because until now, we've been learning to code, which is we were learning how computers speak, now we're kind of flipping the cards around, where the computer needs to learn what we're talking about. And
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and the idea that we can transform, I mean, I'm sure, if anybody out there with, more programming background, I mean, I was pretty impressed when you could also convert one type of language in a programming script and turn it into a different language. Like even just translation like across that is super powerful, right? But like this idea of transformation of information, I think there was some news that came out a little while back. Some of you guys can look deeper into this, but they had mentioned that something like Wi-Fi radio signals, or like just the signals that come through the air, could be used as cameras. And the way that they explained that was that there are certain patterns in the way that like the signal degrades based off like distance and based off other objects in the room. And there's also a certain pattern in how cameras work and how we create those visuals, right? So the idea that we can transform one concept that's pretty abstract and turn it into another concept with just enough pattern recognition, I mean, that should be pretty exciting for just about anybody, because we all have any number of concepts or ideas that we want to transform from one field into another. Not to mention that when we really start talking about these cross sections, I mean, like I said before, we have a statistics engine that can average things out and can become generic, but it's when you become kind of a cross section of two pieces of information that you can really drive some innovation. That, I mean, take, within design space, I mean, architecture and automotive, I mean, like asking ChatGPT, one of the first things that I asked it was, what would be a good pairing, talk like wine and steak or something, right? Like what would be a great pairing of a car brand with an architecture movement? And even though the list was pretty rudimentary, once you start asking, hey, I'd like for you to justify your decision, hey, I'd like for you to create a table with categories, all of a sudden it adds this level of structure to the thought process behind just a simple answer, behind a statistical and a probabilitical answer, right? But even just that by itself can be a huge inspiration point to jump off of.
Absolutely. Would you like to share something like on the screen what you mean by that, or as well?
I could do that.
So
I have something I can pull up right now.
Visualize it, because I think where Ray is getting that we're using a very precise mathematical machines to create art, and then we question it. Isn't that how we do it? We are in the way those machines too. Just we're biological machines that
Exactly.
that create art too. You know, we're all very artistic. Just very much we don't know that very often as well. And computers didn't
that's
know that as well, you know, till now.
and that's the way I've always approached it. I mean, like I'm a tech guy more than anything else. That's how I started, right? So I never really saw myself through the artistic lens, you know. And there's still a lot that I teach myself on a daily basis. But you know, I see it as, you know, sometimes when you're doing a quick sketch on a piece of paper and you can't very quickly undo, right? What do? You like justify that stroke of the pen, and you kind of build it into the design, right? And so eventually, if you get lucky, that can become an iconic part of that design. So in the same way, if we embrace that randomness and we try to direct it with a little bit of intention, I mean, I think we could do something that, you know, we never did before. Right here on the screen, if you guys can see it, we have
we do.
a series of cross sections between different car brands and different architects, and I just think it's interesting because, you know, some of these vehicles are like recognizable, like in terms of what their brand is, right? But they're reinterpreted in brand new ways that we never saw before, and you know, you might say, oh, well, you know, like what about like the dimensions of it, and like maybe this doesn't fit, or, you know, whatever else. But this is just step one, right? If we just look at all this AI technology as like the first step as opposed to the final solution, it's really empowering because you can take it a lot further. And it kind of puts you into like the director's seat or like head executive seat, you know, as you start asking these questions, like, hey, well, what if we did this? Hey, what if we did that? Hey, what would happen if we bring this onto the table? Like, these are the type of questions that before these new innovations, I mean, that was only reserved for a very small slice of the population, right? But now we all have that ability, and so it really emphasizes like the value of critical thinking, the value of systems thinking about how one object, one design interacts with the rest of the system and other designs, right? I think there's a lot of really great opportunity there.
Absolutely. And you know what you mentioned, that this technology will empower us. Many people are talking, oh, it will take away opportunities, or it will automate world beyond, you know, us. No, it's just that we will have a different space in the society. You know, like before we needed to go in a pyramid scheme all the time. You know, we had the boss and we go down. Now we can be the boss to the computer. And that's beautiful, I think.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So, yeah. And
yeah, I think I often think to myself about all this, that I mentioned the idea of like the democratization of creativity, which I think is really powerful. Right. And I know a lot of people have bemoaned this of, you know, you go to art school for, you know, a number of years, you hone your craft for 20 years to be able to produce these images that becomes your livelihood. And now all of a sudden anybody can produce images like this. And it does require a drastic shift of the way that we both think about our creative processes as well as our actual value as creative people, because the value now becomes not on the output, the mechanical skills, but the ideas and the concepts that drive behind those things. And one thing we've been thinking a lot about Magic recently, I've been thinking about this idea that like artists have superpowers in the age of AI. And if you think about AI models are only good at replicating what they've been trained on, right? So they're vastly, there's so much information they're trained on that they appear to be infinite and creative, but it still is a limited subset of what it knows about. Artists have this amazing ability to make new things, right? We are in a sense data set generators as artists. We can make a model do something better than a base model does, and we can make it do new things that it couldn't do before without the data that we created for it. And you see there's a lot of this going into some of the, like, there's a great tool called Scenario. It allows you to fine tune your own image generation models on your own data. And it's been getting a lot wider adoption amongst particularly the game industries where they've been focused on, but a lot of concept artists are utilizing it, like the ability to take, say, 10 or 15 card designs that you've made put them into the model, and now you can generate hundreds or thousands more variations of that to be able to rapidly and quickly move through an ideation process. And I think that this is wildly interesting. Same with where I just saw news this morning, Audio Stability's audio generation model dropped, and it's phenomenal. It's text to music, and I just listened to a couple samples, and it's like really good. And we're now moving into the age of not just visual generation from text prompts, but audio and music generation from text prompts. And so we'll start seeing the same thing with musicians. You know, a musician won't drop an album. A musician will drop a new generation model that they've made.
That's
so
incredible.
cool that you mentioned it, because I hosted one of the Hugging Space projects on Neural DeepNet, and later on with the audience we'll be able to create music by just prompting something. So it will be fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Or you're able to go from an image to music. Like now we start getting into a weird area of synesthesia where we're like, hey, we're not even going to go from language to music. We're going to go from image to music. What does that, you know, Frank Lloyd Wright Porsche sound like as an audio track?
Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that. I've seen a Hugging Space project that does exactly that too, you know. It goes from the image to sound. I haven't experimented with that yet, but we will, you know, as you say.
What do we got here?
Since we were talking about like using the AI systems for something other than just art, I just wanted to bring this up because I've been recently experimenting with the idea of blueprints and packaging for vehicles. And training the same AI that produces a lot of the artwork, but based off engineering drawings, right? So we have, you know, we're talking about like doing text to image, text to voice, text to, you know, like music. I mean, like video too. Like that's in its very rudimentary phases, right? But you know, how far can we take this idea of machine learning and pattern recognition? Which, by the way, I mean, even the scientists that are developing a lot of these models, they don't fully understand the way that the neural net is making the connections to itself, because it's in a way it's acting like the human brain, and that's very difficult for us to understand even to ourselves, right? So I figured, you know, why don't I just, you know, upload a bunch of visual imagery of like structural components. And so I was able to get from this sketch that we have in the center, that's very quick doodle, just something that, you know, 15 minutes, doesn't take a whole lot of time. But then when you input that as input with a certain level of precision for the system to adhere to, and you can get like variations on packaging, right? It understands in general what a car is. It understands in general what a person is, where that fits together. And I think, you know, for all the creators out there, all the people who you know, wish they could be Iron Man, you know, like in the next Marvel movie or something, like this is the sort of thing that should get you excited, because that means there's really no limit to what you can teach the AI. And in a way, it's almost like the best people. You just have to understand how to convey those concepts in a way that can make those patterns, right? It's all about the pattern recognition. But you know, this is just the beginning. This is very first stages, right? But so like you can imagine what would be the next step, next 10 steps, next 100 steps, right? I mean, at that point, I mean, how far are we from being in that Star Trek situation where we can go to a microwave looking machine and say, hey, give me this, and it'll come up with the idea, manufacture the idea, come up with variations you pick, you know, and you have the best solution that you can use in your daily life. I mean, that's incredible.
Absolutely, and that's what we want to do, you know? That's where we're going.
This is totally wild. Just like the idea of being able to take, say, an image and do an X-ray, right? Do a see-through. You're pulling out the different design components internal to the car and allowing the AI to fit out how all the pieces fit together. And as you say, it's kind of like eventually you'll go from image to blueprint. You'd be like, okay, now decompose it into its component parts. Okay, now let's open up the engine and see what pieces it's made out of. Let's, you know, and at each level you could zoom in more to higher levels of fidelity, to the point where, you know, we've had these chats with Thomas, but I'm starting to kind of see this of being able to then take those things and be like, okay, turn them into files that I can print off my 3D printer. You know, it just like sends it off, and now all of a sudden it's producing. You've gone from an image of a concept to the actual parts needed to produce that thing entirely by the AI, just stepping the AI down through its pattern recognition process.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's like, not to brag too much, this piece was produced completely by a solo, by a human thought, all the way to its physical form. So just to stress how revolutionary it is, before, to produce this torso, you would need to go to art school for, I don't know, 10 years. You would need to buy a bunch of materials and so on. Now, all you need is to ask, computer, please produce me a head torso, and fine-tune it. And you have it, yeah. So you guys can check. I'm sure this piece will become a piece of history, and that's exactly what I'm focusing now in Neural Deep Net, is to go from sound to 3D printing. So because I believe that we humans are very tactile creatures, and we don't believe in something completely until we touch it. This is like, since we're born, the tactile feeling gives us this security. It gives us the comfort. And I believe with the synergy of all these technologies, we'll be able, to produce dreams, to produce truly our ideas will be transmitted to physical form. Yeah.
Well, one really interesting experiment that we did when this ChatGPT first came out, which it's just an incredible story. I believe there was a guy who wasn't a programmer, and please fact check me on this. Do some research. Don't trust everything that I say, but there's this guy that was not a programmer. He ended up like #1 on GitHub, which is like the code like repository, and it was through this idea of like auto ChatGPT, right? Like, okay, we have ChatGPT. You ask a question, you get a result. That's fine and dandy, right? But what he did was he created this mental structure, kind of like how we organize our thoughts, where hey, here's an idea. Okay, now do a rebuttal to that idea. Okay, now that you've done that, grab the piece that's actually valuable and try to make like some action items. Like think about like the next 10 things, steps to do, and then based off of that, create like the individual task and carry them out. I think the project was able to access when they set it up with the right APIs, which is just connecting one system to another system, sending packets of information over that's compatible. What they were able to do was ask the machine for a pizza, have the machine use the API for synthesizing a voice, use that voice and plug it into a voice over IP line, and then make a phone call to a pizza place and interact with them in real time, because the responses are coming back transcribed. I mean, how incredible is that, right? Like the idea that you have enough puzzle pieces to create an interaction, right? Like that's something like, I mean, you think of what the next use case might be, right? So if you take just any string of tasks, I mean, you can create, I mean, a rudimentary agent in a way, right? You just have to give it a task. You have to have the right checks, and that just emphasizes the importance of thought process and mental structure of like how you organize what you're wanting to do. Well, one of the things that I experimented with that particular tool was that I gave it a task, but I also try to give it a corporate structure like you would have in a company, so that I can carry out tasks in an organized way. Because I figure, well, if you look at any corporation, any company, we're just a series of individual tasks that are kind of randomized. And the way that you make that work useful is you have managers, you have directors, you have executives, and you have all these people with like various levels of vision to carry out the task or the goal or the focus of the company. So I set up ChatGPT in a similar fashion, so they would start talking to each other. And before I knew it, all of a sudden you just see like in the command window, like they're all sending each other emails. They're all like one of them is going off to research stuff on the internet, coming back, telling their manager. The manager takes that information and generalizes it so the other ones can understand. And that was like really insightful, because it makes you realize like a lot of us are just processing just that one task at a time. But if we zoom out and give ourselves structure, then we can do anything.
Yeah, and I think what Ray is saying, this is the beauty of human collaboration, because I just read that, you know, a quote recently: we're not the strongest, not the smartest species on Earth, but we are the most social, and the one that collaborates the best, and that's how we came to be the dominant one, you know. And if we can enhance that even further, and I think it's the big chance, maybe Jesse can augment that too, because he's a big propagator of open metaverse, not Zuckerverse, as you know it now. Yeah, so what is his view on AI taking us into that digital realm and connecting us, you know, as a society?
I think, yeah, thanks so much for the prompt here.
Yeah.
You know, the web always has been an intricate balance between what's open and what's closed, right? That's what drew me to the open metaverse efforts that we do, where we focus on creating protocols for metaverse interoperability. It was, you know, the web can't be owned by one company. I guess about 6 companies are doing their darnest to do that, to own it. But by and large, it was meant to be open. And it's not to shun proprietary business models or, you know, artists wanting to wall off and protect their writing so that AI is not using it, artists wanting to protect their arts that AI is not using it. Like, all of that makes sense. And it should be your right, to set the usage of your IP. But once again, the web has always been meant to be free. So it's a balance, and you need buy-in from those proprietary builders or those IP creators to feel safe to be part of the bigger thing. Just like you need folks who create open protocols and open standards to feel motivated to continue to donate time, right, for something that doesn't explicitly return revenue. So AI is no different. You know, our product, right, at Magic, we're really focused on ensuring that it's not just creating cool agents, but like that are actually useful agents, right? Like, I pay for Midjourney. Happy to pay for Midjourney. I only use it 3 or 4 times a month, but it's there when I need it, right? So that's why I'm happy to pay for it. If I had an agent that would schedule meetings for me, my coordination agent would meet with your coordination agent, and they'll go through the Google Calendar API and maybe use Proton Cal, so Proton Cal API, and they have a conversation and find the best time for us to get scheduled. You and I never even had to do any of that. You know, that's super useful. But I like to believe that we're all going to have our own bespoke version of Siri and Google Assistant or whatever phone assistant you have today. I believe that we're all going to have our own coordination agent, right? It's easy to talk about these task agents, but the concept of something like a coordination agent is very intimate, right? I may never meet your coordination agent because you talk to it, you tell it, you give it access to your writing. It's on the dashboard of your car. It's not just bound to your phone, right? It's also on your TV. It's in your VR headset. It's fielding calls for you. It's, you know, these are different than simple task agents. And if we want to see these coordination agents be successful and be useful, it's going to require a balance of open and closed. Otherwise, we're just going to have like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, whatever you use for streaming services. I'm sure you have 6 more in Europe, right? Like, we're going to see that with our agents otherwise. And it's going to be, you have to, that's my Google agent. Hang on, let me talk to that one. Oh, it never works well with my coordination. We need a balance if we want to see this work.
You know, the idea of like this customized experience, I mean, especially for the metaverse, is I mean, when VR was making the rounds, I mean, all the innovations they were making all over that space. I mean, and right now it's easier to use than ever, right? But a lot of the content that we are looking for, the volume that we're expecting is just not there, right? But I think with a lot of this generative AI, we can really like start to make use of that space. Like I saw some videos recently where you can create like 360 panoramic, like fully, like you can turn around and see the entire environment through the use of training like those 360 maps. So even just that by itself is like your own personal space that's like tailored to you. Not to mention that if you start bringing 3D into it, which there's a lot of 3D animation software, a lot of 3D modeling software that are starting to get some of this ChatGPT stuff in it, some of this Stable Diffusion stuff in it.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, I mean, at that point, you can have a fully customized, like tailored to you experience from start to finish, right? And then at that point, I mean, like you can get together with other people that are also part of your kind of sphere of interests, right? And so it's just, I mean, yeah, see, this is the stuff that I'm talking about right here. To be able to generate something like that and be able to like just take it in as a novel experience, I mean, it's fully immersive.
Exactly, and this was done, ladies and gentlemen, this was done by one of our, by us, but I mean generated by one of the peer companies. So again, what you're seeing is a 360 sphere that was mapped with the AI prompt. Something that would used to take us artists and designers hours and days to plan and paint do. Now you can do it in a matter of minutes. You know, you create your own environment and then you go, you know. You do what you want with that. And it's up to you if it's a spacecraft flying above Earth like in here, or it's just a, you know, mundane couch that you want to be in, you know.
And all the stuff up to this point, or a lot of the stuff up to this point, has been about like building things, right? But you know, one of the things that was touched on at the very beginning of the presentation today was like the research aspect of it, the Google Trends, like how do you figure out what the right goal is going to be, right? And so I think that's equally important, if not more important. And I think a lot of these AI systems, we have to look at it like one of two ways. Like, yes, like this boundless amount of creativity and like innovation and all this stuff, right? But also we want to make sure that we have all the right choices, that we're making all the right questions, that we're not like missing the point of what we're trying to do because we were too far within our own rabbit hole, right? We want to know what we don't know. And so one of the things that I want to illustrate with that is you have to be able to see the data set through the AI, right? And in a way, like do your own tests, see what seems to pop up more often. And I know that's a lot of work, but there are ways to find out what the data sets that are training some of these. As we progress through this new wave, there will be companies that won't share that information, and sometimes we might need to do our own research. But knowing how to get to that information is going to be extremely important, because you know, if in a data set you have more of one concept versus another concept, you may get a bias, or the answers you might get might be, you know, kind of skewed. But at the same time, you know, if you take all of that with a grain of salt, you can make a lot of interesting discoveries too. So I'm going to share my screen again. There's a piece on here that that I generated way back when DALL-E 2 first came out. And I was trying to like just poke at it and see kind of what the system could and couldn't do. Here, I'll see what you guys think about it. Hold on a second.
Please
Let's
do
see. So, do you guys see my screen here?
Absolutely.
PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. So this PowerPoint or this PowerPoint slide is from a presentation I did a while back from my university. And what I wanted to show here is like 3 types of prompting, right? One that's very abstract. Another one that's a little bit more of a, like, of course, you're not going to have enough context for that question to be answered. And then one
Looks
where
like
it's just
Prius,
like details and details. Yes. So the one in the center is pretty funny because, you know, we asked DALL-E, hey, you know, what make the last car ever made? Like think about like, you know, and this is before ChatGPT, right? So you just have to prompt it in a certain kind of way so that it understood what the assignment was, as opposed to going back and forth and iterating, right? Thankfully, it's a lot easier to do this now with ChatGPT and the processing. But you think about what we asked, right? It's a Prius, which first of all, you know, if we're designing the last car ever made and it's a Prius, that says that like what we care about is like economy, like efficiency, that speaks to like being able to carry enough people. Like notice it's not a sports car, right? But then it's also a taxi,
Yeah.
right? It's part taxi. The last car ever made is also some kind of ride sharing thing, right? Like in an abstract way. But then if you notice on top, what is that? That's a gas station. It's a gas station on
Oh
top
my
of the
God,
Prius.
that's hilarious.
So I mean, like you think about like the kind of
Yeah.
logical jumps that
Yeah.
these systems can make. You know, on one end they're very dumb, and on another end they're very profound, because in a strange way, it's telling us a lot about humanity. It's telling a lot about us, the type of questions that we're asking, and you know, it may give us the obvious answer, but it's going to do it in a way that it understands. So in a way, we have to understand, hey, how is this processing of this thinking happening, so that you can trust the answers that you're being given. Because just like with social media and misinformation, it's very easy to get convinced if you use the right language that when you're being told a lie. And that's only going to get harder with AI systems getting more and more developed, more and more sophisticated, more and more subtle in the way that they can manipulate our thinking, right? So we have to be very careful with that. Then we also have on the right, you know, a Pokemon car, which, you know, the prompt is very detailed and it has a lot of stuff on it. And so you can be very expanded in your vocabulary, and all of your specific knowledge and all of your experiences can go into creating a piece of work. And I would say that this falls into art because you could only do it with your specific experience, with your specific timeline in the universe where you had the situations that you did and the thoughts that you did, right? So that's another part where we can explore like what the AI system can do for us as a reflection of us as a humanity. And then finally on the left, you know, I left that one to last because I wanted, you know, everybody to kind of gaze at it for a little bit. The most symbolic painting of all time that is meta to its data set. Now, the encoder, the text kind of interpreter, like machine that runs on the back end of this image generation, it's not open for us to kind of pry and see how it like semantically understands like what we're asking. So maybe the second part is not as useful. Meta to its data set, I don't know if the AI is conscious or if it's able to like self-reflect or anything like that. But I do know that it understands the idea of symbolism. And I know that it understands the idea of painting. And so with this, you know, like we're asking for symbolism, but we're also not asking for a specific type of art style. And so I want you to notice how it looks or feels almost like a cave painting. But even beyond that, it's not much of a cave painting. It's more like a set of stains. It's maybe more like a set of like cracks on a wall, right? Like there's symbolism at several layers here, and how it's not something else, or like the white space in between a concept. And so we have like this central kind of like focus area, and we have like some figures in the front. Now, you know, we have the part that says meta to its data set, right? And it's possible that maybe the one concept that's most prevalent in that data set may be humans. And that's why we have these figures that kind of look like human figures. And I've showed this to a couple people, you know, here and there as topics come up. And, you know, some people have said that they see like a religious kind of like undertone to this. And other people say that this feels like, you know, moments before, you know, some kind of, you know, bomb or something. Like everybody sees like their own interpretation of it, but it's very what's it called? The meaning that gets assigned by that person, it tends to be pretty strong. And the idea of symbolism definitely like bleeds all the way through, right? And so, you know, you kind of have to decide for yourself like what this means, right? Because it could just be noise, it could just be like hallucinations from the AI system. But if you know, dare to uncover a couple other layers and try to see how the system work and try to like interpret this as if the AI was an artist trying to convey their meaning and their experience, then you can kind of see like all of humanity kind of speaking back to you, right? So just some things to think about.
Fascinating, mate. Fascinating. I think you touched, you know, that Terminator topic where, you know, like years ago we've been introduced with this amazing movie, and we were, shocked, like, oh, one day robots will walk on Earth. And they've been walking on Earth now for some time, but at least I am much more surprised on this, that robots create art on par with us and question, we quote them to question the meaning, and it does that in the most beautiful artistic way, which was never ever predicted. They predicted that, oh, computers will solve all the mathematical problems. Apparently, AI is really dyslexic, pretty much like me. So I can do algebra, but so do AI cannot do it so well. You ask me 20 times what is 2 times 25, probably I'll tell you a lot of bad answers. Same with AI,
Yeah, the idea of trial and error, I think, is something that definitely bled through. And that's something that we want to take advantage of, because that's where a lot of really interesting discoveries will be. I mean, just think about what it would be like if the AI system could not make mistakes and was only objectively right, whatever that means. I mean, that would be, I feel like something would be lost there, especially, when it comes to innovation and creativity and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think this brings up, I mean, there's a lot of doomerism going on around AI right now. But we don't have a lot of narratives that suggest, a techno-optimism of what could we expect if our technology actually gets good enough, right? I think this is I think to myself about what it'll look like in 10 years from now. We'll look back at our technology now and go, wow, it was so primitive, right? And like, if you think about how wild our technology is right now, what it looks like for what we have now to look primitive is kind of mind-blowing, right? And I think a lot of the hiccups, the doomerism, is from the fact that we're still really concerned about the fact that while our technology is smart, it's not smart enough yet, right? But when it is smart enough, what problems can it help us solve? Problems that humans aren't good at solving, or are limited in our capacity because we can't consume or integrate enough data about what's actually going on to come up with a proper solution to these things. And I think about things like the environmental crisis, or a lot of the like economic issues and poverty, mental illness, scientific breakthroughs. I know there's a number of people within the AI community who are radically, extremely excited about the prospect of extremely advanced language models that can help us to advance our technological progress far faster. By being like, hey, generate a paper about a technological discovery that hasn't been made yet, right? And you just generate 10 papers, and maybe they're not quite right, but they lead researchers into completely new directions that we couldn't have otherwise advanced ourselves towards. GPT models are now showing extremely advanced mathematical capabilities, which will probably only progress. I think it was DeepMind utilized a language model to improve vector mathematics to make them more efficient. And for context, linear algebra and vector calculations are the very foundational basis of how language models are trained and also operate. And so the idea of utilizing a language model that's trained on mathematics to make the math that generates language models more efficient, you can see where that's going as it gets smarter. Right. Eventually, and this is the whole whole singularity thing, but when a machine gets better than us at making the next iteration, right? We only need the AI to be better than a human at making another AI for it to begin closing this loop towards some kind of hypothetical superintelligence.
Yeah.
I think that's what people get scared of, because the idea of something smarter than us is kind of terrifying to us. We're so used to being the smartest thing on the planet.
Yeah, I
Well,
like to think that it's.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thanks. I'll keep it brief. I like to think that it's like we're the conductors of our own symphonies now, right? Like for folks who are afraid of AI, I understand those fears. It would be kind of gaslighting to say that I don't understand why you're afraid. But at the end of the day, AI, we believe firmly, and many others do, that it's meant to help enable, unlock, unleash, what our actual potential is. And it's a lot closer to the old Disney Fantasia, right? Where he's making the brooms dance. there's always going to be a need for the human element, but it just rapidly reduces our iteration cycles, which allows us to learn faster, grow faster, and build much better things during our time that we spend building, designing, or creating. So I always like caution folks, like, this isn't going to replace designers. This isn't going to replace developers. It's much how ChatGPT, has helped me organize my meeting notes, or helps me find another way of wording things. I don't have ChatGPT out there just writing content for me and publishing blogs as me. That would be reckless, right? I am very much the publisher of my own content. I get to review, prompt, tweak, and create, and spend time on what matters most to me. I don't consider myself a great developer. I've been coding for over 10 years, but I still feel like an imposter. But I can build a website from scratch because I have a little AI buddy there that I can turn to when I'm panicking, wondering why it's not working, and I'm following a tutorial and I'm doing the same things, but now it's not working. You find out I put a backtick somewhere instead of a single quote, right? Those things that used to drive us crazy are now much, much simpler. And so the ability to learn and the ability to create is a lot simpler.
Absolutely.
And
yeah,
I feel like hearing that is just so inspiring, right? Because you think about like this situation you're talking about. Hey, I'm trying to get this to work. It doesn't work. I'm trying to ask people on forums. Nobody really has the answer. There's a thread from like 2005 that like ends at an abrupt, oh hey, I figured it out, no answers, right? Like that sort of like chase for a question and an answer, and all you're left with is just like the question, right? And so you think about not just within our context of trying to produce things, but people in other countries, where they might not be as fortunate as any of us, where they maybe don't have the resources to ask a mentor, maybe they don't have the resources to have a tutor, right? A lot of these things are now going to be possible, and actually they're in development right now. Khan Academy, for example, is incorporating a ChatGPT like chatbot into all of their stuff, and they're training it to be a tutor. They're training it on the content. They're training it to understand the type of questions that it's going to be asked, right? So not just for the people in this room. I mean, everybody has so much potential, but like I think we're going to be seeing an explosion of creativity and innovation from people in all over the world. Where traditionally these opportunities were not possible, and it's those situations that, like Jesse is talking about, that are universal to all of us, right? Like we're trying to get somewhere, but we just, before the GPS is invented, we're kind of just wandering around until we find an answer.
I mean, I'm glad you bring up the Khan Academy thing, because the other place that we haven't even talked about is the impact of AI on education, right? And I know the founder of Khan Academy, I'm trying to remember his name. Saul Khan.
Saul Khan.
Yeah, he started Khan Academy because he wanted to teach his kid, and he wanted to teach everybody, basically all the kids in the world. And he pulled up some really interesting stats recently, essentially pointing out that if you think about people's success in education as being kind of buckets, from being kind of like not really good all the way up to excelling, anybody that's given a personal tutor will automatically go up 1 to 2 categories. If you're not good, you'll become pretty good. If you're pretty good, you'll become good. If you're good, you'll become really good, right? 1 to 2 of these categories, a personal assistant will amp you up. And so he was particularly excited about this idea with things like ChatGPT, of giving every single kid in the world their own personal tutor, right? An AI that you can ask questions to, that can be engaged with you at whatever level you're at, that can help you explore. The idea that every single kid in the world could be automatically bumped up even 1 to 2 categories in terms of their excellence in education and learning is hugely transformational. And we'll see an entire generation of kids who learn in ways that we could only dream of in sci-fi even like 10 years ago. And that impact on education alone will rapidly increase advancements and development over the next generation of the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, No, that's incredible. I mean, well, and we talked about math just for a brief moment. um, but there is a plugin for ChatGPT, especially I think if you pay the monthly membership, you get access to the GPT-4 model.
Mm.
There's a plugin that you can get for ChatGPT that hooks into Wolfram Alpha. And if any of y'all like me used Wolfram Alpha during school to help with like engineering or with just math and physics in general, I mean, it's a great resource. But the idea that you can pair up two incredible models together, or actually Wolfram Alpha is not a model. I believe it's more algorithmic. I'm not sure exactly how the technology works for that one, but I think it's fundamentally different from ChatGPT. But the idea that you have like something that's very specifically good at one task, and then another thing that's very good at something else, and then just being able to cross that gap. I mean, that's where I think a lot of the things are going with API calls towards like different services and different structures. But more broadly, kind of like zooming out from that is, we have these. I mean, we always call it like left brain thinking and right brain thinking, and I think we're going to be kind of putting things into one of those two buckets. Like you think about your average computer has a processor, a hard drive, for memory. You have the graphics card for like drawing, for graphics. All these are in a way kind of metaphors to like what things that we do, right? Like we have some people really good at math, some people really great at drawing, some people really great at remembering things, like all these components that we've like replicated into computers. But this idea that like we have these engines, like we have in our car, like an engine that just processing, take that explosion and turn that into something useful using the rest of the drivetrain, right? You can take any one of these concepts, whether it's math, whether it's large language models and thinking and talking about how you write, talking about the philosophy of how you're trying to explain the thing you're doing. I mean, like all of that. I mean, you can build a car, you can build a machine, you can build a product, right? Using all of these engines individually and then stringing them together. But like just knowing that those are essentially just engines, right? It's just a combustion engine all over again. What you create around it is going to be where you bring your magic.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do now with Jesse and Michael, is to create that magic, and I was so fortunate to Google out Jesse, just out of the blue, because I had this vision that I need to create AI chatbots, and I was like, okay, I don't know how, It's a little bit similar story how I found Bitcoin in 2008. But that didn't go that well because I sold too soon, and I just invested in startups. So I've been too generous, angel. But now I told Jesse and Michael, I'm staying. I'm not selling. I'm keeping this Bitcoin with me, all of them, So yeah, and to get to the point that I think these guys are onto something, seriously, because, I've been building AI chatbots just by coding, the old school way. You copy paste some lines of code, you try to make it work, you debug it, and that's how I learned to do it back in '97, I think, when I learned QBasic, which is ancient language and nobody knows it, runs on DOS, which also is a dinosaur, for you all kids and normal people. But the point is, these guys are really democratizing how things are built, where I found Jess, he invited me, and I just went there and I built it like a craftsman would build a tool, which is very intuitive, very human-like, yeah. And that's what we'll do soon. And we'll do an interactive session where we can actually play a bit with these bots that we built. And could Michael and Jess, and also if you guys want, share a screen a bit, tell like how do you see the process of like building these bots, and how will they become those like you mentioned, our Google Calendar assistants and so on, prompt engine
Yeah.
pairing.
Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
I was gonna say, if you want to pull up a quick screen, we can at
Yeah.
least show like some of the stuff like we
Right.
show investors. The product is in live alpha right now. You can get on our wait list. We are rolling on about probably 100 to 500 people every Monday from that wait list, and we're using that user feedback to help make better iterations. I guess in short, before I pass it off here, we want you to be able to build useful agents, deploy those agents. So we're multimodal, right? You can deploy them on Discord. You'll be able to deploy through REST APIs, be able to deploy, have an on-screen chat bot, create NPCs for video games that share a common lore. I mean, you name it. We want to make that easy. So you can build them and deploy them, but we're also focused on you being able to scale them and monetize them. So what's probably most profound about what Magic is working on right now is this concept of a profit sharing. We've abstracted away how you engage with agents, and we're testing something called MP, or Magic Power. Essentially, if you want to go talk with the Midjourney agent right now, Midjourney will stop you. The bot will stop you and say, hey, do you have an account? Please create an account. Maybe it lets you create 1 or 2 images first, but then it tells you to create an account. So upon creating one with Magic, you'll get some free MP. This lets you engage with any Magic agent across any channel that is powered by MP. So if it's a Discord bot that's powered by that's Grimes, the singer. Let's say there's a music bot, right? And you invite it to your server. And there's a Snoop Dogg bot that you invite to your server, and there's a LeBron James bot and you invite it to your server. And you have all these agents there, and you want to just talk to them, or you go in, you're a guest of a server and you want to talk with their backlog bot or their 3D printing bot. Magic will unlock the ability for you to engage with them. And for creating useful agents, every time somebody becomes a paid subscriber of Magic, we're going to give a cut. Right now, we're thinking 50% of the first month will go to the person who created the agent. So it incentivizes people to create useful agents. We want to incentivize people to host your agent in their Discord or whatever, and then ultimately help people who don't want to learn a new tool but do want to benefit from these agents have an easier way of doing so. Go ahead, Mike. I think I bought us some time.
Wow, this is great. This is great news. I didn't know that too. You see, I feel like this is a reveal, eh?
Nice.
It has been in the works. We've been chatting about this a lot, because really what we want is we want to be an end-to-end platform that solves all the problems for creators of building things with AI. And one of the biggest problems of building something with AI is the unit economics. Every time somebody interacts with it, you got to pay some money. And we'd rather solve that problem for people so that you can build something, you can deploy it, you can put it in front of an audience and get them to, incentivize them to want to use it, and then just do a revenue share with us. Right? We take a cut to support the company. You get to build your bot and make money off of it. And we handle all the hard stuff, the billing, the accounting, the subscriptions, the distribution, all the model architecture, the scaling, so that creators can just focus on their creativity. Right? That's why we want to empower that. And the money piece is probably the last piece that we have to solve to really help to unlock creators in actually leveraging AI and making a living off of it. Because that's the other piece for us too, is that part of the reason why we made Magic and why we're trying to make it as accessible as possible is so that people can come into AI and learn about it and even begin to make a living off of it without having to learn Python or get an ML degree or learn advanced mathematics to actually build something that is useful and powerful for them. So I can share my screen. One of the it's interesting that you brought up the programming thing, Thomas.
Yeah. Which I think, a lot of us people which are primarily creative, which, I'm both too, a bit like Michael. I started with the coding, but then I saw I didn't want to become like a system admin, so I started to spray graffiti instead. And, I progressed through life in this very chaotic way, not choosing between two. But now you don't need to, you can be both. And yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and And to be honest, I mean, as a programmer, I'm no like, I don't have a PhD. I didn't do a computer science degree or anything. But I, as a programmer by trade, I think always thought as well that, our job might get automated away at some point, but like programmers might be around for a while. I'm kind of the mentality that computers are probably going to program far better than us. They're probably going to invent their own language to do so. That's way more efficient for language models to crunch on. Like already, a large chunk of my time coding is actually just spent working with a language model to generate code for me. And so this is where I believe that humans will always want the ability to open up the hood, to take back control when they want to, right? So like, I think of self-driving cars. I never want to be in a self-driving car that I can't manually override. Maybe that's just me. I get the idea of it's like, I don't mind self-driving cars, but I don't want something that I can't like flip a switch and like, grab a wheel if I need to. And I think people will always want that level of control, at least the option of control. And so as our AIs get better at generating programs and applications and writing their own code, I still believe people are going to want to open up the hood and try to understand what the AI has built for them as they interact with it. And that's a big reason why I'm a really large proponent of this concept of visual programming, which we'll dive into in a second. Right. So we can see this is the main Magic Cloud, which we're still under active development on. We have our the agents that we're working on currently. We can run through a flow and make a new agent. We have a few different templates. I haven't tried the image generator, so I'm just going to stick with our chat assistant for now. And we call it the Magic Bot. Here, friendly and helpful. AI wizard. Oh. It's bad. I actually like that ChatGPT doesn't care about my bad spelling sometimes. Language models used to be like, I've been working with LLMs in GPT-3 for about 3 years now. And like back in the day, it was your spelling mattered like immensely to the outputs of these models. Nowadays, it's kind of like Google search. It's like, it's close enough. The language model will be able to figure it out for me. So you can see here, we actually have the ability to upload a document into our agent's memory quite easily. Let's just go, I'll upload our B2B summary. I don't have a loading, but there's some chunking going on in the background. It's working and it's processing this document for us and embedding the contents of the document into the agent's memory. So one of the big things you've probably seen a lot lately is that ChatGPT's like chat with your document. So all kind of works off of this same mechanism where essentially it's taking the language and it's putting it into this space, kind of like an XY plot graph, except it's got like 1,000 dimensions rather than 2 dimensions. And concepts and things are actually mapped by the language model into this mathematical space. We call these embeddings. And you can take one input, like a question that you've asked, and you can find things in this space that are around it and pull them in. And so this is kind of how our agent memory works. This is how all the like chat with your docs work, is utilizing this mathematical representation of concepts and language. So we have this pipeline now that we've been putting in place. You can see it's actually chunked up and put into our agent's memory this document that I just uploaded. This button should be at the top. It's a bad place for that. We can see here we can connect it to Discord if we want to and pull the bot onto Discord. I won't set that up right now. Or we can, for the more tech-minded people, we can interact with that agent via a REST APIs. We can actually build applications or front-end clients in the web on top of the agent that we've now made. So we're done. We now have an agent. I'm going to open it up in our development environment, which we can see right here. This is kind of Magic proper, so to speak. And what we've started with is we've been given an introductory graph. So this is why I was saying this is a visual programming language. What it does is each one of these nodes represents a unit of work, some task, whether it be a function, an external call. They're for those who are programming minded, right? They're a function. They take in some input and they return some output from them. This is kind of why I was saying that I think an AI at some point will probably be able to just make these nodes on the fly. And if I tried to open it up, it would be some weird gobbledygook language that I can't understand because it's made by machines. Right. But I can understand what the intention of the AI is. I can be like, oh, okay, it's grabbing an input from Discord. It's destructuring this event. It's pulling this data out of this incoming event that happened and grabbing something from it, right? And so we have a whole palette of various different kinds of operations that can be done, working with different data structures, etc. And then we can also test our little chat bot here. So I'm just going to say hello. Let's just say, tell me about magic. Let's see how good this is. And we can actually see it run. So we can see how it's running its flow through the application. Right now, it's actually hanging on the generate text node, which is sending a request out to ChatGPT in this particular case, getting a response back from it, and is going to spit that response out.
Here we go.
It did not manage to pull out the proper documents. And we can actually see if we go to, so let's actually see what it's spitting out. So you can see here, this is a text template. So I'll walk you through a little bit. One of the benefits of Magic is that we can very easily walk through the logic of something that's going on. We don't have to be programmers to walk through the logic flow, right? So we can see we get an input coming in from, in this case, from Discord, though I'm mimicking that event over here in my little playtest area, where the exclusive gate basically says if either of these two things trigger, then trigger the next thing. We take the event, and every event in our system has a bunch of information in it. And we won't get into most of it, but what we want is the content. What did the person say on this platform? We're taking that content and we're making a text embedding. This is where it's taking the text and turning it into a mathematical representation of it. Then we're getting all of the documents that we stored in our agent's memory, and we're pulling them in. So we're taking the documents, and we're pulling out their content. And then we're taking their content and we're injecting it into a prompt. So as we've been talking about this concept of prompting. So this is where our prompt is getting assembled, right? You're a sentient AI called agent name. And we're like, well, what's agent name? Well, we can see agent name here. And tell us, MagicBot. Okay, so the agent is MagicBot. So this is, you are called MagicBot. You know about everything and you'll help others to solve their problems and build relations. Your personality is personality. You can check here, friendly and helpful AI wizard. So that's getting injected in here. It's basically swapping out these values based on the query. The user has asked, you have searched your memory and have got this content. If you do not have an explicit knowledge from the above documents, please mention, I don't know about this. And then that prompt is getting injected into this generate text node, which we can see here is set to grab from, in this case, GPT 3.5. So we're going off to ChatGPT, basically. We have other models. We have Google models, OpenAI models, Anthropic models currently in there. So you can swap out and try out between different ones. At the same time, we can see, so we had this one flow that goes up through here and is essentially retrieving documents from the agent's knowledge. And we also have a little flow here going on. So we can actually see from the event destructure, we have one flow. So these purple ones represent flow. When this runs, this runs. So when this runs, this one and this one run. This one recalls the last 6 conversation points. So the agent has a little bit of memory for the last 6 times you've talked to it. We take that and we dump that into this conversation input. So ChatGPT lets you actually directly put in your conversation history as part of the input. So we're putting that in there. We're then, after we generate the text, we're sending the output back, which we'll send it up here to our little playtest. And we're storing both what we said and what the agent responded back into the conversation memory so that it can be recalled on the next step by our agent. So we're having some issues right now with the documents that it's retrieving. So you can actually, let's take this and we're going to log this. So we have a little console log down here to help us with this.
So Michael, about the documents, could we call those documents like a human long-term knowledge? Is something that we learned at school and sometimes we're trying to recall it. Is it working similar to that?
Yeah, I see the vector space is kind of like a memory storage system for AI. Right. And when you upload a document, you're putting it into knowledge. But you can also think about it as like the agents, and we don't see this here, but the agent can create memories as it goes as well. Right. So we can not only embed knowledge from documents into what we call the agent's knowledge, we can also enable the agent to learn on the fly by taking information and putting it into this mathematical space that it queries from. So
this
it
is
can
where-
learn and adapt and grow over time.
Yeah. So the memory and its knowledge is basically a 3D vectorized space, correct? With like thousands of
Yes,
layers
it's not
in there.
3D though. This is the part that always trips me out. It's got like
Right.
1,000 dimensions.
Thousand
so if a 3D
dimensions.
point
All right.
is defined by an XYZ coordinate,
Yeah.
these models are storing things against a coordinate that has 1,000 dimension points. X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, H. Like
Right.
that's how it defines a point, is in 1,000 or more dimensional
Okay.
space. But it works the same way, right? You can take, this is the thing about linear algebra. You can take a 3-dimensional space and the same operations you can do in 3 dimensions, you can do in n number of dimensions. The dimensions, they work the same mathematically no matter how big the space is. So you can do these things, like you can find a point in a 2 or 3D space, and you can mathematically find the points that are around it through this linear algebra. So you can do the same thing in these multi-dimensional spaces. And so when we take something that's said and we turn it into this vector, we put it into this space,
Yeah.
we can then take that and query all these other things around it, whether they're memories that the agent has put in, whether it's knowledge we've injected into the agent through PDFs or external knowledge sources. Now we can see, okay, so now this particular query is actually returned well. It now knows Magic's business model is a B2B2C. This means that Magic primarily operates as a business-to-business company. Now we have various business partners. So it's actually properly answering that particular question. I don't know. A big part about a lot of this stuff is actually seeing the quality of how we're putting the information into the agent's memory. And so a big part for Magic is giving you visibility into this process, because your out-of-the-box bot may not be great. You may want to come in and fine-tune it. You might want to change the prompt. You might want to give it a long-term memory. Right? We call these conversations, this is short-term memory. It only is recalling the last 6 things.
Right.
But we could also be storing these events inside of this embedding space, and now the agent could actually find information from previous conversations from weeks ago that it might think is relevant and pull those into its conversational memory as well.
So I want to mention right now, as you're talking about all this, I mean, there's a lot of parallels with the visual AI as well, with everything that you're talking about. You mentioned all this, like, was it 1,000 dimensions? That's also very much a thing within the image space, image generation space. But right now, even before AI, we do have things that we interact with that are kind of similar structure when it comes to like databases with profiles of people with lots of attributes, right? So we might have your age, you might have your location, you might have your preferences of various things. And so the difference with these generative systems versus the data sets that we have is that data sets tend to be fixed in like their structure, and you'd have to like ask the right questions instead of pivot tables in an Excel spreadsheet or something to like pull like what you need. With generative AI, you're able to take those attributes and then like apply them onto another set of data. So one example would be, you're talking about your PDF and how you can augment the knowledge of the bot. Well, in the visual space, if I take something like a famous designer, or like, let's say a brand like Ferrari, Toyota, anything, you can take a lot of these attributes that it's learned through the pattern recognition. That's just math, right? Like there are 1,000 dimensions of what defines a Toyota, what defines a Ferrari, and you can translate those into another concept. Just like with ChatGPT, you can turn any piece of text into poetry. You can also take these mathematical representations of these visuals and turn them into something else, and then train on top of it so that you can be more precise. But just the idea that the essence of these things, like whether it's a PDF, whether it's a brand, whether it's a certain type of painting, whether it's a visual representation of something, these are being coded in the AI almost as, well, like you said, math, like vector representations. Those are points within a space with a direction, which means that they're kind of oriented in a certain way, that the pattern of it can be kind of shifted and transformed and warped, which is
And that's when I first kind of started developing Magic, which was a few years ago when I was at a company called Latitude. We produced a game called AI Dungeon, it was kind of one of the first production level usages of GPU.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
the idea behind it was we call it prompt training now. Where you're taking other problem and you're turning it into a series of prompts, either decomposing a problem into smaller pieces, but you're transforming data, right, through this pipeline. And as you say, while we saw a particular use case of making a chatbot there, that you could have a pipeline to transform almost any kind of data into some other kind of data. We're currently working right now on adding more support for image generation, where you'll be able to take the agent will be able to generate an image. You could feed that image into another model to augment it or to understand it. I know, so we recently, I guess the first time we could talk about it publicly, we have formed a partnership with Google. We're rolling out deep integration into Palm, and we're going to be bringing a lot of Google's capabilities into Magic more deeply. But the one that I'm excited about is they have Gemini coming out sometime at the end of the year, and I've been hearing more and more about it. But it's what's known as a multimodal model, right? GPT-4, and I don't know when we're going to get access to it, but GPT-4 not only can do language, you can upload an image and it can understand the image, right? They had some examples where they showed a bunch of balloons that are being held on by a child, and the question is, what would happen if I cut these strings? And it was like, well, the balloons would float away. So it can understand the image enough to actually answer questions about it. And these are what we call multimodal models. Gemini, from what I understand, is going to not only be text, but also image. It will be able to generate images and understand images, and generate text and understand text. And I believe we'll have music integrated into it, and we'll also have video. So will be fully multimodal, which when it comes to intelligence, understanding things, we have all these like little models here and there. We have an image generation model, a text generation model, but the future of this AI is that one model will do all of it, right? And I've even seen some examples of models where in our current pipeline, and you can do this in Magic now, you can take audio and you can turn it into text through speech to text, and you put that text through GPT 3.5 and it spits out a result, and you take the text and you turn it back into speech with a text to speech model. You know, this little pipeline, you're using different models for this. They now have models that you can directly talk to. So the model itself, rather than inputting text, you just directly input audio and it directly speaks back to you.
Exactly.
It's
and
like
this is
fully integrated into the model.
Good point. I hate to interrupt you, Michael, but we still promised an interactive session to our audience online and in-house. So because we just got a half an hour left, so I'm thinking now to open the Discord, use my phone, and try out one of our AI chatbots. And what we can do, at first we'll just create it, and we can create prototypes of anything that comes into your mind. It could be a poem, it could be a painting, it could be a music, it could be a small game like Flappy Bird, it could be a Tetris game, it could be and then if it codes it well, we can even host it quickly on JS Fiddler, or we can query it to, you know, on Hugging Face to create that symphony that we want, or a beatbox session, you know. So yeah, could we proceed? Are you, Michael, still got some closing remarks?
No, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
All right, great. So thanks a lot, Michael. Really dive deep into stuff, and that's why I think the whole Magic holds on to his amazing creativity and visions. And just a last question to you, Michael, do you see that in the future we could prompt inside the IDE and ask, like, Magic, could you create me a radio bot, you know? And then it will connect the nodes, you know?
Like the first goal is going to be autocomplete, where it suggests the next nodes for you based upon the task you want to do.
Yeah.
And then eventually it'll be, we call those graphs spells in Magic, but it'll be text to spell. We'll just tell the AI what you want it to build.
Amazing.
And it will build it.
Amazing.
And then you could open it up and tweak it under the hood, but you'll be able to get these things out of the box.
Beautiful. And that's what we're all striving for. Yeah. Great. All right. So as we go forward, I'll share with you guys my Discord, which is bots themselves are also powered by, yeah, nothing else but magic. And I've been so grateful for these guys to feature a bot that I created. It's called Deep Space Pirate. It's I call it a legacy bot to their first exhibition bot that they had. It was called a Greybeard, and I just loved how they created their first demo into this cheeky way. You know, was an old pirate that just gnarled things and talked gibberish, but was funny, you know. And I don't know, it just really caught people's attention. And yeah, and I just did a coding and prompt engineering focus bot, which we will try out now, you know. Let's do it. So we go there, and as I go to the channel, and yeah, I'll just be like, hey mate, how you doing? We're hosting an event here. Can you help us create something new? Right. So he got the prompt. Can you tell us, Michael, what's going on now in the background?
Yes, I'm actually just checking right now to make sure things are online.
Right.
Do you have your spell available?
Yeah.
'Cause we could show people what the spell looks like.
So in general, when the message goes into the Discord channel, that goes into like your servers, and then you try to interpret what it's trying to do. Well, I mean, what the message is through one of your special prompts, correct?
Right.
Through one of ours, yeah. I don't know what work, Thomas. Did you do any customization to your agent on there?
I worked mainly on his directive, and I left the nodes pretty much virgin, as I would say.
Yeah, so you would have gotten the. Okay, we got to try restarting the agent on your server. We've been having memory issues that we're about to push fixes for.
It's all right.
Turns out people were building too large of graphs, which was a good problem to have.
Yeah.
If you can pull up your account and just turn the agent on and off again, or I might be able to actually restart the server.
We can do that, no problem. Right. Looks like my computer is slightly. Yeah. So what happens, you know, when you do live events, sometimes, you know, things are like they are. The bot is not responding, and
That's every time you do a live demo.
Every time, almost inevitably.
I know, and
I've restarted our servers, so they should be kicking back in a second.
right.
Things live. This is the one thing with alpha software.
Absolutely.
Okay, things are booting back up.
It's okay. We can now just discuss with the audience. What would you guys like to create? You know, let's brainstorm collectively. What are our thoughts? You know, I don't know. Should we give a mic? You know, to somebody, or in general, you know, while we fixing stuff, you guys are very welcome to ask questions, and you know, to
Please.
Yeah.
Oh, and Thomas, I mean, I remember a little while back we were experimenting with generating some images on that same Discord using the Deep Spire bot.
Right.
I mean, I think that by itself is an excellent use case, right? I mean, as you're having a conversation with the agent and it starts to better understand what your request is, the quality of the images will also be better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That is, yeah, feat of its own. Exactly.
Would anybody like to ask a question? The panel, yeah. Just make sure you speak into the mic so people can hear on.
Sure. Hi, guys. Maybe it's not a question, but since we're trying to create something here, and maybe I'm jumping a bit into the future, but I'm a dancer. I like to dance, and I would love to see. Let's make 2 stormtroopers
Mm-hmm.
know how to dance, and then you just prompt music, and they will start dancing. This is not happening today, but maybe tomorrow. And you teach them what tango is, you teach them what kizomba is, you teach them what salsa is, and you play the music, and they would understand and improvise dancing. Could that be happening? As 3D models dancing.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. How I would see it, to tell you a bit of pipeline, I kind of like show you now because the systems are a bit freezed, but I'll try to describe you. So first, we could prompt any image generator like Stable Diffusion XL to create the images of these 2 guys, which
Here, I'll share my screen.
yeah,
I've got 'em
please,
loading
guys,
right now.
help me out because my computer is frozen and the bot is frozen, so it's really
The bot is up and going, by the way, so anybody who's on the server is welcome to go interact with it.
yeah. So, because I don't know what's
So-
up with my PC, but it's pretty bad. Yeah.
So for those of you that use Midjourney, maybe this would be a good tip. So inside Midjourney, you can do what are called these like combination prompts. So in this case, I did, let's imagine 2 stormtroopers dancing. And so in the prompt, if you
There
do
we go.
like
All
a curly bracket, you can get a series of them, a combination
Here we
of
go.
them.
See, we're beginning of the process. We're in the beginning of the process. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, the
All right.
beginning of it.
Exactly.
But
So-
it would be in motion eventually.
Well, yeah.
Of
We'll
course.
get there. I know, Frederick, too, you're a great artist, so, it doesn't happen instantly, First, we're doing a sketch,
Yes.
And this
And
is
it's beautiful.
yeah, this is a sketch, like we sketch by the hand. First, we create some kind of representation of our idea, and yay, look at that. They even got skirts, that look like, super, burlesque dancing stormtroopers. Yeah, that's what's going on. So we got this. Next step would be putting these into a software like Deforum. Yeah, Deforum is again a part of
Oh yeah,
automatic.
the forum. Mhm.
Yeah,
Or
automatic.
well, Runway ML also
or
has some
the
really
runway
great
too. Yeah,
motion.
example
Yeah.
where we can continue this prompt with both the images and our text. So you can take one of these dancing stormtroopers to be our style, the video, and it will continue on that. While the runway or like the forum will build a bit like a movie, it will create those 30 frames per second and will go on in a timeline. Unfortunately, it's not that fast, but in like half an hour, it's achievable to do a short Deforum or runway clip. And you also mentioned music.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So
Hey,
if
Thomas,
you-
could you explain a little bit about what Deforum is and what you can do in Deforum? I'll admit, even I'm a little bit
Yeah.
rusty when it comes to Deforum. I
Right,
downloaded
right.
it once a while ago, but
So
there's a lot of options in that software.
yeah. So the forum is something I'm hosting on my. The example of it I'm hosting on my own webpage. This is an example of the forum where I prompted it to create Japanese sumi art style merged with European aquarelle in a Japanese environment and Toyota trucks. It's a very complex prompt, but you know, as we artists, we love to combine styles and go with it. You know, like pointillism came from one thing and then become modern and so on and so on. Surprisingly, AI is good at that. It's good at understanding art styles, subjects, and putting them all together. And that's what you see, you know. It takes a bit of time, you know, it's not instant, not yet. But as we see this in the future, I believe it can become as instant as our imagination. Because, you know, what you just created there, you'd have it in your mind. You know, those guys are dancing already, you know. So, yeah, and the forum does it a little bit similar. Yeah, it's just much slower than us humans, you know, because that's the beauty of evolution and our brain. We create visions and films instantly, you know. I can tell you, like, imagine those two stormtroopers on Mars and you see it, you know. I don't need to tell you 20 times what it would look like. Of course, we would all imagine a little bit differently. We all have own visions of Mars, own visions of stormtroopers, you know. But generally, we're on the topic, you know. And that's happening there. Yeah. And
this is a big reason why, like, Magic, kind of back to that original point that you teed me up for earlier about the balance of open contributions and proprietary. You know, with Magic, in 2024, we intend for our marketplace to be able to support skill builders, or we call them spells as well. Some things are spells, some things are skills, but essentially integrations. And in order to be able to do what you're talking about, to do like a prompt chain using something like Magic, you know, we can try to build all the integrations ourselves, but we want to really try to democratize the creation of integrations and allow those types of builders to set their own prices as well. Just like Figma has a marketplace for plugins, WordPress has a marketplace for plugins, you know? So it's such a fun, that's a really fun question and a fun example to try to work through, because I have friends all over the field that have their own little pieces of this workflow that you just described. You could take Midjourney, create images, then send it from 2D to 3D using something like Alpha 3D. Then you can import your new 3D model into something like Blender and assign a VRM skinematic, which is VRM skeletons are is an open format for interoperable humanoid avatars. Then you could import that VRM into a tool like Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Download the Heat, a company called Heat_Tech. I encourage you to check them out, especially as someone who likes dancing. Heat Tech, they've made a marketplace of interoperable emotes, so dances, backflips, just they're really into emotes, and they want your avatar to be able to capture your own emotes, but also you to be able to access a marketplace of emotes. So in the short term, you could go on their marketplace, find dancing that you think fits what you're looking for, apply that animation, and then before you export it, you can slow down the animation to match the beats per minute of the song that you selected. So that's a great way to at least tell the story and have a piece of two stormtroopers dancing the style that you want to the music that you want. But it's still not quite getting where you really want. Where Magic and other tools like Magic are going to become really powerful is when Heat has an integration. They have a node inside of Magic. We have an Unreal Blueprints node inside of Magic. When we have these pieces in there so that you can talk to an agent or through prompt, literally say, create two dancing, stormtroopers. And create polka music and have them dance to some polka music.
Exactly. Yeah. So what style of music you wanted? Because I just did a tango jazz.
Okay. I love to dance kizomba, for example.
Kizomba. Okay, let's. let's just see it how tango jazz.
But tango jazz sounds
Sounds
more
like-
interesting today.
Okay, so
Live demos and all,
yeah, here we go. We just did that together.
So this music is created now.
Now with you, you are the co-author
Cool.
and
Really cool.
main initiator. If you want, I'll send you the file.
Actually,
but
you
now
could,
Tell
actually-
us the one that you actually want to do. How is it called?
Kizomba. K-I-Z.
Because I'm hosting this on my neural deep net. Yeah.
K-I-Z
Yeah.
Omba.
Kizomba. Okay. Kizomba and something else.
Together with, say Kizomba Tango then.
Together. Okay. Let's just call it Kizomba Tango. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's press generate. Yeah, and we'll come in a second. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's just wait.
How do
until
you
it-
spell samba, or are you generating it?
Is it correct? Kizomba. Yeah.
K-I-Z.
Oh, Kizomba. Okay.
Kiz?
Gizomba.
Kizomba. Okay. Kizomba. Let's see. Like Michael mentioned, these models are pretty good at misspelled things, you know.
Yeah, they-
And let's hope it is, you know. Let's hope it is. I'm just wondering if our bot is back as well. Yeah. So curious. Whoa, our bot is back as well. Look at that. Hey mate, will you help us to make some cool sounds?
Here, if you want to share the bot, in the meantime, while the video loads.
Yeah. Oh, it's done. It's done, guys. All right. So now I have no idea how is it, but let's try it. Let's try it. Remember, this was misspelled. So
yeah. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounded a bit misspelled.
Right. Let's do it properly, you know. Kizomba, right? Kizomba.
Yeah.
All right. Let's try that. Let's generate it. Yeah. Okay. Meanwhile, okay, I'm a little bit afraid.
Keep getting louder and louder.
Okay, it's back. Yeah, great. So, yeah. Let's just ask it. Can you explain us what Kizomba is? Because I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay.
It's because I thought I'm a dancer, but now in front of you, I'm naked, you know.
It's from Angola. It's.
All right.
We'll see if the computer gets it right.
All right, it's a very specific prompt, and it's good. I like that, you know. And all right, so it's Kizomba is a genre of dance and a musical genre Angola in 1970s. Here we go. So there's no. Kizomba means party in Kimbundu, Bantu language spoken by Ambundu in Angola. Is that?
Yep.
All right, cool. So, yeah, it knows something, I guess.
Yes.
You know, it does know something. It's still generating the music, you know. So, what about
I
our?
will have to drop. I wanted to say thank you.
All
for
right.
having us out. You have to drop for another appointment, but you all keep.
Thanks a lot, Jess. You've been,
Jess,
amazing.
Could I just ask you to give Thomas some of the links about? You had some suggestions, the chain of command to make all this happen, in going through Blender and Midjourney and the musical bot.
Yep.
If
I've
Thomas could
actually
send
dropped
us
all that into
some
chat
links
for
to
you,
us.
too. Yeah, I dropped that in the chat for you. And then I'm happy if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to reach out afterwards as well.
Yeah.
Terrible at responding on LinkedIn, but I will respond eventually. Or you can always shoot me an email. It's Jesse at magicml.com.
All right, we'll share that. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All right.
Hey, so I dropped in the a few images related to the Kizomba dance, and then
Yeah.
also the runway video went ahead and rendered. You guys want to show it?
All right, cool. And I can try now and play some Kizomba, you know? Let's see. I have no idea what's gonna be. Is that anything close to Kizomba?
No, not close to Kizomba, but I mean, we also talked about polka and the influences. Maybe that got mixed up in the music as well.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah, yeah.
but it wasn't Kizomba. But it's I'm
We may just need to
mesmerized
train
anyway.
it, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe it's not in the data set.
Right, right. I think, you know, what we need to understand with these AI language models, they're a bit like us. They are not know-it-all. Every language model, every human has a very specific knowledge, you know, and that's what's beautiful. Like, I speak Lithuanian. I guess nobody speaks that in this room, you know, and I don't expect you to, you know, but you probably speak Swedish, which I don't speak that well, but we exchange information still beautifully, you know, through a common channel, and that's why we need to train LLMs to, let's say, know what Kizomba is and to make good Kizomba music, you know. Yeah, that's how it is.
Well, and it just shows that like these systems really they're able to recognize patterns, and maybe they can get
Yeah.
like tangentially close, right? But that just means that we have so much opportunity to build upon these systems. You know, that's where we start to analyze, hey, like where does it start breaking down? Where do we need to input some new data set? But the idea that, I mean, whether these are accurate or, I mean, if they're not accurate, it's kind of interesting to see kind of where it hallucinates. I mean, just as an
Yeah.
exercise, right?
That's
Because
a
could
good
somebody else
word,
land in
yeah.
that same scenario if like they misinterpret something? I mean, I think just an understanding like human psychology, it kind of can be a very interesting topic to explore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So while you're there on the runway, how's about we give our agent another task? So do you guys have any ideas, something else that you would like to do, you know? Because we tried Frederick's idea, and let's say we went halfway, you know, there. Right, okay, he's happy, and we're happy too, you know. We learned a lot, you know, about new music style, which I didn't know. I don't know if you guys knew, but something useful. What else you would like to see? I don't know. Is it image, music, code, something? I don't know. Surprise us what you would like AI to conceive, you know. Somebody?
You know, and I'd like to say too, just, you know, while everybody's brainstorming, you know, speak up, you know, at any moment something comes up. But when I train the AI models that I work with, a lot of times it's not exactly what I'm looking for when I first generate that initial image after a large training set.
Right.
But every time I create a new image, I use positive prompting to get closer, and I use negative prompting to get further away from concepts that are showing up that are maybe unrelated, right? So a lot of the music stuff is a little bit more separated. It's a little bit fresher in development. But I suspect that, you know, just like we have the positive and negative prompting, in some of the image models, we'll get something similar for text and music as well. So,
Right.
and you can always, I mean, it's like a GPS system. Somebody said like a GPS or coordinate system as an analogy, and I think that's like absolutely perfect because you're navigating. It's like you're an explorer in uncharted land, right? So once you get somewhere, you know, kind of navigate it like it's a ship, just a little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the right, and you'll start to see that when you evaluate the images, the content that's being produced, you'll get a lot more precision in what you're looking for.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah. Someone has some prompt ideas, images. All right.
Yep. Just,
Torbjorn, yeah, our famous.
Speak right into the mic so we can hear you.
Yeah, our famous Liu professor.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. Emotions. Could you do something with emotions,
Sure.
like not like the big emotions like anger, but ambivalent emotions, like happy, sad, or something that is on the in between.
Okay. So, can you describe us what are ambivalent emotions? Yay! Right. So, emotions are in between our main sectors of emotion. Is this like the 50 shades of gray of emotions? Is that correct? Ambivalent emotions refer to experience of having opposite or conflicting feelings towards a person, object, or a situation. This can include feeling both love and hate. Is that correct? All right. So you see, we can't say now. Do you actually understand what these emotions are, Pirate? So while it's answering, this is an interesting topic, and what I would like to add, scientists have proven quite lately that our all decisions are taken and are driven by solely emotions, because there have been clinical cases where people lost their part of the brain. I guess my loved one can tell which part of the brain, that they can't feel the emotions anymore, and those people become sponges. You know why? They couldn't take any task anymore, because apparently emotions lead to our every decision we make. So that's saying that, oh, be cold, take this decision with no emotions, it has no value whatsoever. Zero value, because clinically it was proven if you don't have, I don't know, what is it, amygdala or Sarah, which part? Yeah, if you don't have the amygdala, you can't, your frontal lobe stops working, and it's just a sponge, you know. It's like an engine without its fuel tank, you know. I mean, it's there, but it has no power. So yeah, of course, does as the generic answer as an AI, I don't experience. However, I'm being programmed to be comprehensive and understanding. So what we can do now, we can ask him creatively, can you make us a prompt to visualize ambivalent emotions?
Actually, I went ahead and generated some images already to kind of illustrate some of what we're talking about. Let me share real quick.
Right? Okay, wait, I'll just hop back from my Discord. I'll let people see what you're sharing.
Let me know when you can see it.
Yeah, we do now.
Okay, so,
yes.
so
automatic 111, yeah, the tool I've been mentioning before.
So I love what you mentioned, this idea of ambivalent emotions, right? Like I think it's a super interesting concept because, you have two ideas that we have in our mind as kind of concrete, but like, what does the in-between stuff look like? Within the AI, we're able to explore that space. There's a method, there's a technique called prompt traveling or prompt walking, like as if you're walking the latent space, that's what they call it, between two concepts. The easiest way to visualize it is just, okay, I put, photo or portrait of a sad businessman. And then on the other end, we have a portrait of a happy businessman, right? Okay, pretty simple. So, but what about, traveling in between the two concepts, right?
Right.
So I want you to notice that this is not just like interpolation of frames, like you would convert like a low quality footage into like 60 frames per second. No, this is semantically changing the weight. This is changing the weight of the semantic meaning of happiness and sad.
Right.
Okay. So you can take that concept of in-betweens to a lot of different applications for things that we don't have vocabulary for. This example right here that I'm about to show is a pair of headphones. And we have three concepts that we're bouncing between, and we have lots of steps in between.
You got now just
this took
pixels. I think you need to like refresh or something.
Oh, okay. It's probably because I'm sharing the other application. Hold on.
Right.
Share. And then desktop. Yeah. Okay. Do you see this one?
Yeah. We're back.
Awesome. So here we have three concepts of three different headphones. We have one that's kind of cyberpunk, very neon, very maybe Tron. Yeah. And then we have another one in the center, which is more like sleek, more like industrial, more metal, right? And then we have like more of an economical, like eco-friendly, something more friendly to the environment, right? But notice how we semantically how we semantically travel from one concept to the other here. Like we're going from this
cyberpunk,
kind of cyberpunk, super futuristic, and as I slowly progress, we're starting to get some parts of one end and some parts of the other end, right? And so back, to your idea of like ambivalent. The emotions in between. What do we call them? What was the word for it?
Ambivalent. Yeah.
Was it ambivalent or okay? Well, so the idea we travel between one concept and the other and try to pick up on the in between. I mean, it's really interesting because we don't have vocabulary in our dictionary for that. Right?
It's like Eskimos got 200 words for snow, and in this we need like a new vocabulary to describe what's going on in between the jungle and cyberpunk.
Exactly.
Because it's we haven't experienced that, so it's a good point. We know with emotions too, what happens when you go from sad to ecstasy. There are so many states in between, like thousands, probably millions, which I don't know, we just don't talk about, I guess.
Yeah, no, and back to like what we were talking about before. Michael was mentioning the mathematics behind it, right? The thing that's possible with math is to have gradients. Yeah. Gradients between 2 points of value, like whether it's black and white, right? Like the gradient across is a smooth transition, right? Yeah. But to be able to have access to that in terms of semantic meaning, vocabulary, that's a whole nother dimension to artistic ability.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother dimension to communication in general.
Exactly. So I just don't mean to interrupt. Going back to our Discord, just wanted to show what our pirate come up with. So this is his view of how these feelings are, and what does it mean. And he came up with the prompt. Surreal painting depicting a person standing at a crossroads. One side, the path is bathed in warm golden light, symbolizing happiness and joy. On the other side, the path is shrouded in cool blue shadows, representing sadness, melancholy. The person's face is a blend of light and shadow. So, and this is the output that we got. So,
how cool is that?
Yeah. And we just made this collectively, and we can credit Torbjorn as being the initiator of this painting. Yeah, you know, of his thoughts. Yeah, I think it's beautiful. You know, it's a question that I never ask myself. You know, it's a brilliant question, I believe. You know,
the collaboration and remixing of all these ideas, I think, is what's going to be really exciting. You know,
right. We still have Michael with us, or he's off.
I'm technically still here.
Okay,
hanging out.
Technically, yeah. I was just, yeah. You are our like most technical person. I always, you know, tinkered my head with the question: do you believe we can embed and simulate emotions, you know, within the LLMs and all these dimensions that you talked about?
Yeah, so in terms of simulating emotions, you can definitely get LLMs to simulate emotions. It's more of a simulation because you're utilizing language to model it. That's kind of where things like the prompt decomposition comes in, because when a user says something, you can take what they've said, you could parse it through, say, a sentiment analysis. So this is actually very common even before LLMs, and LLMs are pretty good at sentiment analysis, where they're taking in some information. Maybe they take in, from a vector space, previous opinions that they formed about a particular topic, and storing that against how they feel about it. And you can actually pull that out and utilize that to affect the end generation of what the agent says based upon an emotional tone, for example.
Okay.
So you can definitely model a lot of that stuff. One of our big power users, Rob Lennon, has been doing a lot of work trying to model a subconscious process for AI, utilizing prompt chaining and various different kinds of prompts to get the AI to respond in a more complex fashion, with tinkering under the hood with how an agent might actually be thinking about things or being influenced by goals or emotions and things like that under the hood. So you can totally do it, but again, it simulates emotions. I know that there's some work going on where people are actually trying to make models that can be emotional at a more fundamental level than just the linguistic level. But yeah, you can do it.
That's great. I mean, it's a great news. Maybe one day we can have a emotional partner next to us when we're down, or just to uplift us or downgrade us too, when we're too crazy. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people out there experimenting with like using language models as like therapists as well. There's something to say about the way that an LLM can diffuse a situation or diffuse a topic with the right instruction. I mean, it could be very beneficial for a lot of people out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our time is running to an end. I think that's why Aaron is smiling at us and saying that's it, So just before we end, this is called Robotics and AI Unleashed. So indeed it is. However, most of the stuff I'll be showing past hours. So I'll be introducing you guys with some platforms like Arduino, like this bot was made. This is a mix of Arduino, generative AI to make the body, and just hand tools, to make the screws fit, and the little guy can avoid obstacles using ultrasound and navigate itself while doing so. It doesn't have a true AI inside, but it's the first step towards autonomous vehicles and so on. And yeah, as we'll go forward, this is an example of Arduino Pro and Tekla Vision to imagine this tiny camera can train LLMs on the edge. So you can do classification, and it could open your doors or let your cat in and out. So the future possibilities are crazy, you know. What the hardware, a combination of the hardware, software, and human creativity will bring to us, I believe it's going to be mind-boggling, that we'll be able to build those agents to be literally our best friends, pets. You know, we now have dogs to do all of that. You'll be able to build your, you know, small... I don't want to, you know, make it into a dog or human, because we run into troubles when we try to anthropomorphize. Okay, you need to help me with that.
Anthropomorphize?
Exactly.
Anthropomorphize.
Bingo.
There you go.
Yeah, things. But we'll be able to build our best friends, you know, with that. Yeah. And so, yeah, we'll have some fun in here, past hours. I'll also show how you go from image to 3D printed physical objects, you know, and in a few steps. And it's not science fiction anymore, but it is magic, and that's why we work with magic, you know. And yeah, and these days magic means AI, you know, and it's at our fingertips. So yeah, I just wanted to say big thanks for such a patient audience that stayed with us and listened throughout, as well to our speakers. Arezou, please come up as well, as you know, she was brave enough to start the thesis with us. My buddy Ray, that's been texting me relentlessly every day about every mind-boggling AI news that we've been discovering. It's been just like a spaceship flying through the web, you know. And also, biggest thanks to Jesse and Michael, you know, that they invited me to participate on their platform, and so far it's been nothing but tremendous joy and mind-boggling learning curve. Yeah.
It's been amazing to have you on for the ride and the adventure.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. And so yeah, I'll let last note to be done by Aaron, our gatekeeper.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for
everybody.
today, and thanks for coming to the event. And you can, I think Thomas will be here for a bit as well. So if you want to ask him some more questions or find anything more out, welcome to do so. You'll be around for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye bye, guys.